Welcome to your personalized deep dive. You're here because you want to get into some new ideas, maybe connect some dots, get those aha moments, but without all the overwhelm.
Exactly. And you've shared some really fascinating sources this time.
Yeah, excerpts from the Bhagavad-Gita. Pretty timeless stuff, wouldn't you say? Looking at life, death, duty, the big questions.
Absolutely. Ancient wisdom with, well, surprisingly relevant perspectives.
So our mission today, let's keep it simple. Cut through the maybe complexity and just pull out the core insights from these texts you sent.
Sounds good. We'll focus on what they say about the soul, the world around us, and maybe a path towards something more.
Straight from the source. Okay, let's dive in. Where do we start? The soul seems pretty central.
It really is. One of the first things the Gita tackles is this difference between, who you are fundamentally and the body you happen to be in.
Like the physical self versus the inner self.
Kind of. Think about your own life. You've changed so much, right? From being a kid to, well, now.
Definitely don't recognize some old photos.
Right. So the Gita explains this using the term Jnana, the embodied soul. It says this soul just passes through these stages: boyhood, youth, old age. It's continuous.
Okay, that makes sense within one life. But then
comes the really mind-bending part. Chapter 2, text 13, introduces Dehantara Praptir,
which means?
the soul moving on, transmigrating to another body when this one dies.
Whoa, okay.
And it adds that a self-realized person, someone who really gets this, isn't bewildered by that change. It's not seen as this terrifying end.
That image you used before, like changing clothes, it makes it less final.
Exactly. It reframes death entirely.
And then text 21 in chapter 2, that really hammers home the soul's permanence, doesn't it? It uses words like avinasi,
Never destroyed,
eternal,
unborn,
and avyaya.
immutable, unchanging.
Yeah. So the Gita poses this profound question. If you understand that as your true nature, how can you actually kill anyone or cause them to be killed?
It completely flips the script on violence, conflict, life itself, really. It does. And it connects to what we're all looking for deep down. Lasting happiness, real understanding.
Right.
The Gita contrasts the soul's natural state, described as Saksidananda.
Eternal, knowledgeable, and blissful.
That's it. Eternal existence, full knowledge, full bliss. It contrasts that with the material body, which is inherently temporary asat.
Not lasting.
Ignorant, in a sense, Ajnana, lacking that full knowledge.
Okay.
And frankly, often full of suffering, Nirvananda.
Yeah.
The Gita says our miseries basically stem from this identification with the temporary body.
Thinking this body is me.
Precisely. But here's the hope.
Right.
Chapter 8, verse 5 offers a promise. By understanding this and connecting with the divine, with Krishna, you can attain Madhavam.
His nature.
Yes, attaining the Lord's nature, which means achieving a state, a body even, that is Saksidananda, true lasting joy and knowledge in the spiritual realm.
So it's not just escaping the bad, it's gaining something incredibly positive and, well, eternal.
Exactly. It's a transformation.
Yeah. Okay, so this spiritual realm, where is it? What's it like? The texts mention different worlds, right?
They do. It's quite fascinating. They describe a spiritual sky, sometimes called the Brahmajyoti. Think of it as this vast, effulgent space.
Like made of light?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
And within this spiritual sky float countless planets. But these aren't material planets like ours. They're described as Anandamaya Sinmaya.
Full of bliss and consciousness?
Right. Eternal, non-material realities. And the text suggests they all originate from the ultimate spiritual world, Krishnaloka.
So a totally different order of existence compared to, well, here.
Completely different. Yeah. Because even if you reach the highest planet in our material universe, Brahmaloka, the Gita is clear. Abrahma Puvano Loka Punar Avartino Davina.
Meaning?
All planets up to Brahmaloka are places where you still have to come back. Birth, death, disease, old age, they still operate there. No true permanence in the material sphere.
So even the heavenly planets aren't the final destination in this view.
Not the ultimate, no.
And when the Gita talks about, say, going to the moon or sun planets, Vargaloka, it's not talking about rockets, is it?
No, not quite Apollo missions. It explains interplanetary travel, Yanti Devarada, Devan Pitran, Yanti Pitrarada, as more of a spiritual achievement.
Based on what you do, your worship.
Exactly. By focusing your worship, your consciousness on the demigods who are seen as sort of cosmic administrators, you can attain their specific realms after death.
Yeah.
The moon, the sun, other higher planets.
So your destination depends on your focus, your devotion.
Precisely. The Gita lays out this whole cosmic map, higher systems, middle ones like Earth, and lower ones too. Your consciousness is your vehicle, in a way.
Okay, so there's this intricate cosmic structure, and overseeing it all, the source of it all, is Krishna.
That's how the Gita presents it, very clearly. Krishna is identified as Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
The ultimate source.
Yes. Chapter 7, text 6 states it directly. Aham Krishnasya Jagata Prabhava Pralayas Tatha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds, and I am their dissolution too.
Wow. Okay, that's comprehensive.
It is. And understanding the true nature of Krishna's appearance and activities in this world, his Janma Kama Kami Divyam, his divine birth and actions, has a huge consequence.
Which is?
No more rebirth in this material world. Chapter 4, text 9 says, such a person attains his eternal abode. Mameti Arjuna, he comes to me.
That's the ultimate liberation being offered.
That's the promise, yes. Ultimate freedom from the cycle.
And this ties into that idea about the moment of death, doesn't it? What you're thinking about.
Absolutely crucial. Chapter 8, verse 5. Antakiska mam evasmaran. Remembering Krishna and only him at the time of death.
Leads to?
Manhavamyati, attaining his nature. But it's not just about a lucky last thought.
No.
The implication is that you need to cultivate that remembrance throughout your life. Practice thinking of him, focusing on his form, his qualities.
So it's the culmination of a life practice.
Exactly. And the Gita goes further, saying that all the complex Vedic rituals and studies, Vedeska, Sarvar, Ahameva Vedya, ultimately have one purpose.
To understand Krishna?
To understand Krishna. He's presented as the ultimate beneficiary, the enjoyer, and the master of all sacrifices. Aham hi sarvya jnanam bhokta ka prabhur evaka.
And if you don't get that part,
the text says those who don't recognize him in that position, well, they miss the ultimate point and essentially fall down, meaning they don't achieve that final liberation.
okay, so everything seems to funnel back towards understanding and connecting with Krishna. How do you actually do that? The Gita mentions different ways, but highlights one, right?
It does. While it discusses various paths, it places a strong emphasis on bhakti yoga.
Devotional service.
Yes, loving devotional service. It's presented as the most direct means to please Krishna and gain liberation.
How's it different from, say, just doing good deeds or studying philosophy?
Well, it contrasts it with karma yoga, which can often involve acting for personal reward, and jnana yoga, which might rely purely on intellectual speculation.
Yeah.
The pure bhakti is defined quite specifically. Anya bilas chinyam jana karmadhyanam kam anukulena krishnanu bhakti uttama.
That's a mouthful. Break it down.
Sure. Anyabalasita sunyam, free from any other desire, especially selfish ones. Jnana karmadi anavratam, not covered or motivated simply by the desire for the fruits of work, karma, or dry intellectual knowledge, mana.
So what is it motivated by?
Anukulyena krishnanu. Cultivating activities, thoughts, words, deeds that are favorable, anukulyena, for pleasing Krishna. It's service done out of love and devotion.
A relationship, essential.
That's a good way to put it. And the Gita contains that very direct, very powerful instruction from Krishna. Sarva dharmam parityajyam akam saranam vraja.
Which means?
Abandon all varieties of religion or duties and just surrender unto me. It's a call for complete reliance and trust.
That sounds intense, but also maybe liberating.
It can be seen that way. And there's an encouraging assurance, too. The Gita says that even those who aren't great scholars, if they're sincerely devoted, Krishna personally helps them from within. Tesam ivanukamparthamaham ajnanijam tama. He destroys the darkness born of ignorance for them.
So it's really about sincerity and the heart's connection, not just book learning.
Very much so. That seems to be a key message.
Okay, shifting gears slightly. How does all this connect to our everyday lives? Our jobs, our responsibilities, our karma?
Ah, yes, karma. The Gita has a lot to say about action and duty. It introduces jnatam karma.
Prescribed duties, like what we're supposed to do.
Sort of. It could be societal roles, occupational duties, things aligned with your nature. The key isn't just doing the duty, but how you do it.
Okay, how then?
Without attachment to the results. Asangam taktva phalam kaiva. Perform your duty, but renounce the attachment to the outcome, the fruits of your labor.
Easier said than done.
Absolutely. But chapter 18, text 9, calls this type of detached action sadviko mata renunciation in the mode of goodness. It's considered the highest way to act.
And if you are attached to the results, if you're working just for the promotion, the money, the recognition,
then, according to the Gita, those actions bind you. They create karmic reactions that keep you tied to the material world and its cycles.
so detachment is key to freedom.
It is. And interestingly, Chapter 3 suggests that even wise, learned individuals should act, but without attachment. Why? Secursus loca sangram. It set the right example for the people in general to guide society properly. So, action itself isn't bad. Attached action is the issue.
It's the motivation and the mindset.
Precisely. And the Gita also recommends that work should ideally be performed as a sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Supreme, often referred to as Vishnu Yajnartha karma.
Like an offering.
Yes, following the directions given in scriptures, the Vedas. Work done just whimsically, without that sense of higher purpose or scriptural guidance, is termed vikarma, unauthorized, or even harmful action.
Okay. There's also this idea that our nature influences us, right? Even if we know better.
Yes, that's a very practical point. Nanavanapi prakartim yanti bhutani. Even a person of knowledge tends to act according to their own material nature, their prakti.
So you can't just ignore your inherent tendencies.
You have to understand them and work with them, or rather purify them, through the process of yoga, connecting with the divine. Acknowledging your nature is the first step.
It sounds like real self-awareness is crucial. Understanding why we do what we do, what drives us, and trying to act with a purpose beyond just ourselves.
That's a great summary of it.
But why is it so hard? Why do we get tangled up in attachments and desires? The Gita explains this too, right? This idea of material entanglement.
It does. It introduces the concept of the three gunas, or modes of material nature.
Goodness, passion, and ignorance.
That's them. Sattvam, Rajas, and Tamas. Chapter 14, verse 5 says they condition the living entity nibagnanti dehinam avyayam. They bind the eternal soul.
How do they bind us? What do they do?
Well, each mode has its characteristics. Goodness, sattvam, tends towards happiness, knowledge, peace, but can still bind you through attachment to that happiness and knowledge.
Even the good one isn't total freedom.
Not in the ultimate sense. Passion, rajas, is characterized by intense activity, ambition, strong desires, and hankering. It binds you through attachment to action and its fruits.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
And ignorance, tamas, manifests as inertia, laziness, illusion, madness, sleep. It binds through delusion and negligence.
So we're constantly under the influence of these forces.
According to the Gita, yes. We're usually influenced by a mixture of them, though one might dominate at different times or in different people. The crucial point, though, is that there's a way beyond them.
And that is?
Krishna consciousness, that Bhakti yoga we discussed. The Gita states that by engaging in devotional service, by surrendering to Krishna, one can transcend the influence of these modes. You tap into a spiritual energy that's above the material modes.
So it's not just about white-knuckling it, trying to force yourself to be good, but connecting to something higher that lifts you up naturally.
That's the idea. The connection itself provides the strength to overcome the lower influences.
And this connects to inner battles, too, like dealing with strong desires, like lust.
Definitely. Chapter 3, text 43, addresses this directly. It talks about conquering that formidable enemy, lust, kamarupam, durasadam, by using the higher self, your intelligence, guided by spiritual understanding, to control the lower self, the mind and the senses. It's about strengthening your spiritual resolve to overcome base impulses, recognizing you are the soul, not the urges of the senses.
Requires real internal strength and clarity.
It does. It's presented as a battle within.
Speaking of battles, all this profound philosophy is delivered in a pretty dramatic context, isn't it? On an actual battlefield.
Right before a massive fratricidal war, yes. The setting is Kurukshetra. Two families, cousins of the Pandavas and the Kauravas, the sons of Dhritarashtra, are about to fight.
And the Gita starts with observations about the armies.
It does. Duryodhana, a leader of the Kauravas, is assessing the Pandava army, noting how well it's arranged by Drupada's son, who was also a student of their own teacher, Drupadaputrena the Kava Sisyanadimata. There's tension right from the start.
And there's mention of Arjuna's chariot, something about Hanuman.
Yes. His flag bears the emblem of Hanuman. Hanuman is a famous devotee of Lord Rama, an incarnation of Krishna, known for his incredible service and strength. His presence on the flag is considered an omen of victory for Arjuna's side.
Symbols are important, but the real drama is Arjuna's state of mind.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the crux of the first chapter or two. He sees his own relatives, grandfathers, teachers, uncles, cousins on both sides, ready to kill each other.
And he just breaks down.
He's completely overwhelmed. He questions the whole point of fighting, of winning a kingdom. Kim no Rajyana Govinda? What good is kingdom, Govinda? He's filled with compassion, but also confusion about his duty, his dharma. He literally says he's confused Karpanapavina
Yeah.
and asks Krishna for guidance.
So his personal crisis is the trigger for this whole teaching.
Exactly. He formally accepts Krishna as his guru, his spiritual master, right there on the battlefield seeking definitive instruction. It's a moment of total vulnerability and surrender.
And then the battle signals start. Conch shells.
Yes, the text describes the blowing of conch shells by warriors on both sides, signaling the fight is about to begin. It adds to the drama. And Krishna is there as Hrisikesa.
Master of the senses.
Right, guiding Arjuna's chariot and implicitly guiding Arjuna's senses and mind. We also hear various names for Krishna, like Madhusudana, killer of the Madhu demon, Govinda, one who gives pleasure to the cows and senses, Vasudeva, son of Vasudeva. Each name carries significance.
And Krishna's response to Arjuna's plea?
He doesn't immediately say fight or don't fight. He starts by explaining the nature of the soul, as we discussed. But he also assures Arjuna, essentially, because you are very dear to me, istos ti midurdameti, I will tell you what is truly for your benefit. Tato examite hito. It establishes their relationship and the importance of the teaching to follow.
So this intense personal struggle set against this huge conflict becomes the backdrop for exploring duty, reality, and our connection to the divine.
Perfectly put. And the teaching doesn't stop there. Later on, Arjuna witnesses something even more profound.
The universal form, right? Svarupa.
Yes. In chapter 11, after hearing much of the philosophy, Arjuna asks Krishna to reveal his cosmic, all-encompassing form, his divine opulences, Vaktam Arhasi Asisina Divya Hi Atma Viputaya. He wants to see it all.
And Krishna obliges.
He does. He displays this incredible, effulgent, multifaceted universal form, Rupam Param Darsitamatma Yogatyayomayam Visvam Anantamadhyam. It contains everything, all universes, gods, beings, time itself.
What was that like for Arjuna?
Overwhelming, awe-inspiring, but also terrifying. The text says no one had seen that specific form before him. Arjuna feels his mind reeling, Pravyati tantaratma driktim navindami samam kavyasno. My mind is perturbed. I cannot maintain my equilibrium. It's a glimpse of the infinite, the incomprehensible majesty and power of the Supreme.
Wow. That must have solidified everything Krishna had been teaching him.
You'd imagine so. It's a powerful demonstration of Krishna's position as the source and controller of everything.
Okay, so as we start to wrap up this deep dive, thinking back over everything, what are the absolute key takeaways for someone listening, if they remember just a few things?
Well, I think fundamentally it's this idea of your true identity.
Yeah.
You are an eternal soul, not just this temporary body. That's point one.
Right. Big one.
Second, this material world, while it's our current reality, is temporary and ultimately a place of suffering compared to the potential of the spiritual realm that Saksatânanda state.
Okay. Soul eternal, world temporary. Got it.
Third, the Gita presents Krishna as the supreme source of everything, both material and spiritual.
The ultimate reality.
And fourth, the path recommended to connect with that reality and achieve liberation is bhakti yoga loving devotional service.
Makes sense.
Then there's the practical advice. Act according to your duty, dharma, but without attachment to the results. Understand the influence of the modes of nature, gunas, and strive to transcend them through that spiritual connection.
Detached action, transcending the modes.
Exactly. And maybe finally, remember the context. Even in the midst of immense crisis and confusion, like Arjuna's, there's a path to clarity and purpose through seeking higher wisdom and guidance.
Those are some powerful points. The aha moments for me are definitely that shift in perspective on death, the idea of a reality beyond what we just perceive with our senses, and seeing how even everyday actions can be spiritualized if the intention is right.
Yeah, realizing that the ultimate purpose of all activities, all knowledge, even all existence, according to this text, is connection with the divine, with Krishna. That's a profound reorientation.
It really is. Changes how you might look at, well, everything.
Indeed. And obviously, this deep dive just scratches the surface. The Gita is incredibly rich. People spend lifetimes studying it. But hopefully this gives a solid foundation.
Yeah, definitely food for thought. Which leads to our final point for the listener. Thinking about all this, the eternal soul, the temporary world, the path of devotion, detached action, which of these ideas really resonates with you right now?
Yeah.
How might understanding that you're an eternal being living in a temporary reality actually influence your choices, your priorities, your sense of purpose day to day? What does that mean for how you live?
That's the real question, isn't it? How to integrate this wisdom.
Something to ponder. Thanks for exploring these deep waters with us today.